couple of other things we need to look at here is the following. First of all, I want to make sure this idea is sealed within you so that when you're done with your rules, you do a save. And it says here, I have a slight problem. I can't save because I had a math statement here, which some reason doesn't like still. Okay, I put the cursor on it and it says the value time in months int32 is not compatible with system string. So I thought I made this both a, let's see here. Notice here I have employment type time in months, and here I did place of residence. So let's switch that again. Okay, time in months, and then here let's say add. Let's put a 3 there, and employment type time in months again here. Okay, now let's do save. Okay, that allowed me to save. The next two steps you need to know about is the publish and deploy. So publish is like an intermediary state. You just have to do that before you deploy, and then you right-click deploy. Now once it's deployed or even published, you can't really change it. So if I come now to any of these rules and I want to change this little value over here from 100 to something else, you see I can't change it. It's red and it's protected and there's no way to change it. So to change even one little number, you've got to come over here again, copy your entire version, go back to the rule, paste the version, and now you see you have version 1.2. So it's really not uncommon to end up with 5, 10, or even 100 versions of the same policy here. And so now that you've saved it, you would make your changes, you would save, publish, and deploy. At some point then you're probably going to go back here and undeploy one of these, and then you can right click and delete it. The only reason you'd want to keep it is if for some reason you wanted to compare to what it used to be versus what it is now. But I find that really maybe I only keep every third or every fifth change that I make. So I might keep version 1.0 and then I might have version 1.2, and there's no reason to keep 1.1. The other thing we could look at here is the database tab. Again, we'll cover vocabulary actually in the second chapter because vocabularies are not complex, but there's a whole lot that we could talk about there. And database, so here you can connect to your server. So you're going to click Browse. This is my current machine. I'm going to use Windows Authentication. There are my databases. And so we know that a while ago we saw a rule they were using in the Northwind database against this customer info table. So let's say, for instance, again, I made another rule here, and I call it Neil DB database demo. And so here at the top, you say add a predicate if something is greater than. And you saw earlier that they had, like here, they said if ID is equal to the ID in the XML, and then they went back to the database. They had an AND statement. So let's add an AND logic here. And the credit card balance, again, I can't just drag and drop here. I have to right click and say, like, well, first of all, that should have been an equal, not a greater than. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll add an equal here. And I want the IDs equal. That ID to the ID in the schema. And then here I'm going to say move this down, and you can actually hit delete here. You can click on one of these and hit delete, and it just goes back to the word argument. Now I want to say if the balance is greater than a certain amount. So back to the database, if his credit card balance is greater than $500, then I'll do some action down here. So that's basically how they built the rules accessing the database. The last thing you have over here is .NET classes, and you can right click and say browse assemblies. And right now I haven't created any .NET assemblies that I can really use here. So what we'll do is one of our future videos we will create a .NET assembly that has some business rule logic in it. I mean, there are a lot of assemblies here, but none of them that I know have any business rule logic built inside of them. For instance, in a prior video in the WCF series, we did a common library. And so since it's in the GAC, it shows up here. But if I click OK, you see here ORC helpers. What I usually do is I'll create another method here called business rule helpers, or BRE helpers. And then I'll be able to drag and drop these BRE helpers down here into actions. Like right now, there is a validate document routine. So this is more or less how that would work. The problem is right here is the parameters don't match. So normally what you'd do is you'd pass your schema to this routine, and there's a special document type you have to use, and we're going to talk about that in an upcoming set of videos. But basically this is how you'd access your .NET classes. They have to be in the GAC first, the Global Assembly Cache, which means they have to have a strong name. Okay, so that concludes what I wanted to show you. In this video, to recap real quick, we talked about the database connections, .NET assemblies, and we talked about how you might end up with 2 or 3 or 10 versions here of the same loan, and we talked about how you can do the right-click undeploy, deploy, and publish. To delete something, notice the delete option here is not highlighted. That's because it's deployed. So you'd have to undeploy it before you were able to delete it. And then when you copy it, it's in a not saved, and when you're done, you do a save, and then you do a publish and a deploy. But notice when you do a save, you can't have any unfinished rules over here.